Hello everyone and welcome back to TowerGate. Well, it is day 162. It is Monday, and I believe it's the 14th, something like that. It's Monday. Well, I don't know if you saw it, but Tony Scaramucci was on the George Stephanopoulos program on Sunday morning. Yes, that's right, he was on there, and he said something that was, the way what he said and what he really meant were slightly two different things. He said that there is an element inside the White House that does not want the president to succeed. Now, this was an interview he was doing, and Stephanopoulos was asking him a lot of questions about the phone call to the journalist, which he used the language which got him fired. And he was Stephanopoulos was asking him various questions pertaining to that phone call, and one of the things he said was, of course, there's forces inside the White House that were trying to take down the president. So he backed away from that a little bit, but as I said, his quote was, there is an element inside the White House that does not want the president to succeed. Now, that's what he said on Stephanopoulos' program on Sunday morning. Slightly different than what he said on the phone call, but still, we get the point. Absolutely correct. It's just, more evidence that what we believe about the deep state coup is a reality. It's not our imagination. Scaramucci was only there for 10 days and he figured it out. Well, I want to report a huge victory for all of us. All of us have just had a huge victory, because it is now being reported all over the biggest websites on the internet. The story has now finally taken root because we kept pushing and pushing and pushing, and they could no longer deny the story. So now you can go and find page after page after page of sites reporting now that the DNC was not hacked. It was in fact a leak by someone on the inside. The DNC leak was an inside job. Among the major publications now, which are running this as we speak, we have the Washington Examiner, we have the Daily Mail, AOL, The Nation, which we talked about, Newsmax, Oliver Stone, The Daily Beast, Big League Politics, Pinterest, 4chan, all over YouTube, of course, USA News, Who, What, Where, Why, Truthdig, Real Clear Politics, TeaParty.com, InfoWars, The Hill, Reddit, and many, many, many more. You can just go page after page after page. It is all over all the major media news sites. The fact that the DNC was not hacked, it was an inside job leak. This is incredible. This is huge, because none of these sites would touch that story even a week or two ago. It seems like once The Nation came out, everybody came out and started running the story, and now it's basically mainstreamed on the internet. The narrative, this is huge because it completely collapses the entire Russia-Trump narrative. And what's important to know about this is that because we are here today, by the end of the week, you will start to see the cable stations having no choice, or at least ways their online cable sites will have no choice but to start reporting the truth, which is that the DNC was not hacked. It was a leak. It was an inside job. And it will only take another week or so after that, and the network and that means it brings the entire establishment media along with them, will have to admit the truth, that it was a leak and not a hack, and it was an inside job. And the next thing you know, the paper of record, the old gray lady, the New York Times, the very people who've been pushing the false narrative for so long, will have no choice but to come out and give us their spin. They'll have to give us all the reasons why they got it wrong. They'll have to give us all the reasons why everybody got it wrong. But now they The conscience of the nation, the paper of record, the New York Times, now that they have proclaimed, come out and said we were wrong. It was not a hack. It was a leak, and it was probably an inside job. Once that revelation is out there, and the New York Times is finally naked, standing out there all alone, and they have no choice but to join the congregation in singing the correct hymn all together now. It was an inside job. There goes the Russian narrative and everything that goes with it. I wonder what Uncle Bob and his posse will do. My. And what comes next? I think you know. What comes next is that if it was not a hack and it was in fact a leak, and the leak came from inside, then who do you think was the inside leaker? How long do you think it will be before they finally will begin to talk about what Seymour Hersh revealed about a week and a half ago? How long before more journalists who were not permitted or were too fearful to take this story where it should go, where it leads, where it wants to take you, how many of them will be forced now to come out and start talking seriously about whether or not Seth Rich was the DNC leaker? Once you acknowledge that it was not a hack and it was a leak, who do you think the most likely person is who might have been the leaker? Possibly someone who was a data analyst, who was working on programs that were tracking voter information, including voter fraud, people being prevented from voting in the Democratic primary, which I'm sure Seth Rich was watching very closely. Seth Rich, the progressive who was running all those programs, who got so frustrated he went to his boss, Donna Brazil, who works directly for, or did work directly for Debbie Blabbermouth Wasserman Schultz, and they had a rather heated exchange. A very heated exchange. Then we get the WikiLeaks emails. Then Seth Rich is murdered. Then the leaks stop. It just takes a little patience. This next story is fantastic. It will not get much play in the news media, unfortunately, because this is a major deal. And it has to do with what Trump has finally done, something that both Republicans and Democrats have been promising for years upon years, as long as I can remember. Even going back as far as the Carter administration, I can remember presidents, Republican and Democrat, promising to fix the problems at the VA. But none of them had the courage to actually follow through. Well, Donald Trump, once again, he didn't need the Congress so he could get something done, and he has done an extraordinary, this is huge, this is big. He has got his plan for the VA. He's pumping in $2 billion. He's reformed the VA so that now those people who either are lame, incompetent, or whatever can be fired. You could never fire them in the past. In the past, when you got a job at the VA, regardless of your performance or attendance or anything else, you were on for life, a lifetime appointment at the VA. Not anymore. Now there will be some accountability at the VA. Not only that, Trump's new law or new plan for the VA allows these, in fact it is a law by executive order, allows these servicemen to now go get private doctors and get care that way, to go through the regular system that anyone else would go through, even probably better than Obamacare, I imagine. Although they might be going through Obamacare, they no longer have to just go to the VA. They can now go to a private doctor, any doctor they want. this is major. This is huge. And obviously it's important because the veterans have been mistreated badly for many, going back 40 years, I would say. The last group of veterans that were treated properly was after World War II. The Korean veterans really weren't treated very well. The Vietnam veterans were treated horribly, and all those since then have been treated in a way that's just absolutely unbelievable that the VA has been able to get away with what they've been getting away with. But those days are over. The problem is solved. It is on the way to being solved. Donald Trump has created all the things that you need to do, done all the things you need to do to allow for real reform to come to the VA. And this is a huge deal for the vets. It's a real political winner too, and I don't like to take an issue like this into politics, but quite honestly, there's a lot of Democrats who are veterans who've been suffering under the horrible conditions at the VA. And there's a lot of Democrats who are veterans who are about to experience an incredible change for the good in the way they get their treatment through the VA. And this is going to generate a lot of Democratic votes. Veteran votes from veterans who are Democrats are going to support Trump. He's going to pick up a large voting base here. This is a big voting base. Veterans are a very big base, and there's a lot of veterans who are Democrats. And no one has done anything for them but lie to them. Today, Donald Trump delivered for them. And they will remember in 2020, I can assure you that, maybe even sooner. Well, this next story is one that when I first heard it, I actually thought it was a publicity stunt. And that story is that the first female Navy SEAL applicant has quit after 1 week. I thought she might last longer than that. I thought she might last up until about the first or second day of BUDS training. But she only lasted a week. She probably heard about BUDS training. Now, when I first heard this story, I thought, okay, it's a publicity stunt. It's from The Onion or something. I couldn't believe that the story would be true. But it was true, and I looked into this girl for about 10 or 15 minutes. I just read something about her on her bio. And she was a very talented high school athlete. She's in excellent shape. For a female, she's very athletic and, strong and that kind of thing. And I think she actually believed that she could do it. But she was unfortunately living under an illusion. There are people who will sometimes fall and prey to this, because if you're a real successful athlete like this girl was, you have all these people telling you how great you are and all these things you can do. You begin to believe you can do anything, and maybe she thought she could become a Navy SEAL. But I have to tell you something here, folks. I was in the military, Army paratrooper. You could take 100 guys who are in the military, who are, say, just out of basic training or whatever, who have graduated, which means they're in pretty good shape, and they're good, and you could take those 100 guys out of the Marines or the Army or anywhere else, having just completed basic training, and you can send them to Navy SEAL training, and about 99% of them would fail. Men who had just graduated basic training would fail SEAL training. I don't believe I could have made it through SEAL training. I've studied what they do in BUDS, and I don't think I could have done it. It requires tremendous amounts of stamina, upper body strength, things that women are not equipped with. It is a biological fact. We cannot erase and pretend that a biological fact is not a fact. The fact is, women's strength is generated from their hips downward. Their lower body, their lower center of gravity, is where women get their strength. Men get their physical strength from their upper body. Almost all the things that you do in the military, and especially in BUDS training, is heavily reliant on a lot of upper body strength. This is the reason that you will not see a woman playing in the NFL. Quite honestly, if you put a woman out there, no matter how good a shape she's in one play, they would be carting her off the field. Hey, and the same is true of me. And most 99.9% of other men you might drag off the street. Suit them up and put them out there on the field for an NFL game and see how many plays they're out there before they're carted off the field on a stretcher. They might even be killed. Okay? You will not see a female basketball player competing with men in the NBA. You will not see a female in Major League Baseball trying to hit that 97-mile-an-hour slider. You will not see a woman trying to throw 97 miles an hour either. Even though there's some girls in underhand softball that can pitch in the 80s, it's a whole different ball game. You will not see it. It's just a physical reality that we must come to terms with. And I actually like the idea that women are women and men are men. I think it's a great system. I don't know how you perfect upon it. Okay, physically speaking. The physical nature of things and reproduction and all these things. It's just, it's a pretty good system, so why want to mess with it? But yeah, there are always people who think that they're going to do these things, but there's no way this female, under any circumstances, would have completed Bud's training. It's probably the hardest physical thing that you can possibly do in any of the branches of the military that I'm aware of. It's absolutely brutal. Most men who are in incredibly good shape cannot pass Bud's training. It's very tough. So she lasted a week, but congratulations to her for trying. Let's see. Well, the Trump and McConnell battle continues to rage. It's been going on for about a week and a half now. I don't know what McConnell is thinking. Engaging in a game of verbal warfare with the president has generally not worked out for the people who've challenged him up to this point. He has demonstrated he is an expert communicator because he speaks in language that regular people speak in. Mitch McConnell and his friends don't know how to do that. They do political speak. Everything is political speak. Hard to communicate with people like that. They just don't trust you. Donald Trump has a Twitter account and he talks like a regular human. And that's why he's so difficult to deal with. Also, while the Republicans may think he's not that popular, Mitch McConnell and his friends, they're far less popular than Donald Trump. They are, I believe, making a bad gambit. I think that they'll get the losing end of that deal. Donald Trump engaged in verbal warfare with 17 Republicans and defeated them all, supposedly the best and brightest. Then he took on the Reverend Hillary Rotten Clinton and defeated her soundly, winning the verbal war. He's been single-handedly taking on the entire corporate media and giving them everything they can handle. Now Mitch McConnell, who's basically horrible in front of a camera, who has no skills whatsoever in the gift of the tongue. None. Mitch has no tongue skills. Donald Trump's so much better than Mitch McConnell at this game. I can't believe he's trying to play it. Now, many Republicans have now come out in support of Mitch McConnell, and I think they'll regret that. If I was going to pick a side to choose, I think I would choose the side of Donald Trump. But then again, I understand it's a private club, and McConnell is their boss, and if they don't put their support behind him publicly, he will probably make life very tough on them. Now, privately, they'll probably stick a knife right in his back. If they go back to their district and see where Trump is way more popular than Mueller, they are way more popular than McConnell, they will stick a knife in his back in a New York minute, man. You watch and see. This is not going to work out well for McConnell. And the main reason why it will not, if he was right, he might have a fighting chance. But the fact of the matter is, before this fight even gets started, he has already lost. Because everyone knows that he is the leader of the Senate. And they spent the last 3 election cycles promising repeal and replace of Obamacare. And when the time came to do it, McConnell spit the bit. And everyone knows it. On this argument, he has no standing. He is defeated before it even started. And this is where Donald Trump is just going to massacre McConnell in this verbal warfare. I don't care how many people come and back Mitch McConnell. The people that are going to matter in the next year are the people that vote in his district. Now, he's not up for re-election, but a lot of those guys who are backing him are. And I think you'll see some of these back away from him. I think when you see them go back to their districts, they'll back away from Mitch. They'll try to make some excuses, but they're part of that very same cabal that is not moving forward and failing miserably at the legislative agenda, whether it is on purpose or by accident. One way or another, they're not getting it done. They've already lost this argument. the best thing they could do is take their lumps, because Trump is right, and shut their mouth and move on. And some people will say, yeah, because I'm reading this too in the Politico and various other people, the political experts, who say, yeah, well, now what's going to happen is he's pissed off Mitch McConnell, so McConnell and all these Republicans, when they do come back in September, they're going to drag their feet on everything. They're not going to give Trump anything. Oh, yeah? I think Donald Trump knows that. It's not like he didn't think that through. And I believe Donald Trump's position is that they can't afford that. And I agree with him 100%. They cannot afford to drag their feet and come back and continue to lame out. Their congressional or government jobs are on the line, and they have no choice. They know that they are locked in to repeal and replace Obamacare. It's going to be the standard on which they are judged in 2018, notwithstanding the budget, the wall, the tax repeal, and all the other things, tax reform. They're stuck. They have to produce. They can't go back and drag their feet and try to play that kind of a game. If they do, Donald Trump will just pound on them even harder for being lame. And he'll win that fight. He's already won the fight. It's already over. You know, Trump is kind of like, with the media or anyone who plays his game, he's kind of like the Pied Piper. You know, he understands communications. He understands the media. He understands it very well. And he will think it through, and he knows when he says something or does something what type of response he's going to get. So he says, okay, when they do this, I'm going to do this, and that'll leave me here and them here. He thinks this through several moves ahead, like in chess. And he puts it out there, they take the bait, and then he lets it play out. And he's vindicated and wins almost every time, if not every time. He's going to win this fight because the nucleus, the nuts and bolts of what the argument is over, is, in fact, whether or not McConnell and the Senate have been effective or ineffective. And the jury is no longer out on this subject. So they have no choice but to come back in September and make it happen. And if they don't, there will be a heavy price to pay. And I think there's going to be a price to pay anyway. So Donald Trump, like the Pied Piper, lures them in with his melody. Then he marches them right off the cliff. Just like on Roadrunner and Bugs Bunny, or Roadrunner and the Coyote. Pretty much the same thing. Although I think the Bugs Bunny episode, there was an episode where he was a Pied Piper as well. Okay. You're not going to believe this next story. Now, I know you thought that the far left couldn't get any more crazy. Oh, but they can. Because the newest craze catching fire amongst the far left liberals, Democrats, whatever you want to call them, the latest craze, the newest craze, are you ready for this? Brace yourself. You're going to like this one. Take a deep breath. Here it comes. The far left now wants to reduce economic growth. That's right. Their new plan, reduce economic growth. That's what they want to pursue. Global economic growth reduction. Now, this is kind of crazy. Crazier than most commies. Let's face it. Even the old USSR wanted economic growth. Even Stalin wanted economic growth. Mao Zedong wanted economic growth. Adolf Hitler wanted economic growth. Mr. Mussolini wanted economic growth. Mr. Castro wanted economic growth. Mr. Covera wanted economic growth. Everyone wanted economic growth. Everyone except for apparently this far left wing group of people who now want to reduce economic growth. Now, this was all started by a man named Jason Hickel, H-I-C-K-E-L, Hickel. No kidding. He is the head of the London School of Economics. Now, Mick Jagger graduated from the London School of Economics. It's time, I think, someone give Mick a call and have him get in contact with Mr. Hickel and give Mr. Hickel a lesson on capitalism and on economic growth. I think Mick could probably help Mr. Hickel out. And I can help Mick out. You know, Mick, all you have to do is have a conversation with this man. Now, he's going to tell you that what he wants is to cut consumption by curbing advertising and taxing carbon. Well, here's what you do, Mick. You give Mr. Hickel a call, let him know that you are I believe he's Sir Mick Jagger. I believe he has been knighted, so he is Sir Mick Jagger. You should call Mr. Hickel and remind him that he graduated from the London School of Economics back in the late 60s when they still had sanity. And he has been very successful based on the model that he laid out for his thesis, which was the Rolling Stones band, complete with that logo with the tongue hanging out, which has made him hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars. So Mick should simply take Mr. Hickel on a little vacation, grab their luggage, take a little trip. They can go to Vietnam and ask those people whether or not they prefer life under communism or under capitalism, and whether or not they like economic growth. They could also stop by in Hong Kong, Russia, South Korea, Poland, the Czech Republic, and many other places where they could go to do a little research to find out what people think about whether or not they would like economic growth or if they want to begin to reduce economic growth. You have to be a complete idiot to support the reduction of economic growth. There are some people who are so smart, they're stupid. This guy, Mr. Hickel, he's so smart, he's beyond stupid. President Trump has endorsed Luther Strange. Luther Strange is one of the 2 or 3 people running to fill the seat of Jeff Sessions in Alabama, the Senate seat. Strange supports Trump's agenda, the wall, repeal and replace Obamacare, tax reform, conservative judges, and on and on. He supports the Trump agenda, and Trump is coming out already and giving his full support with a Facebook message to him telling him, you've got my full support and my full endorsement. So I asked a question a couple days ago whether or not we would see Trump come out and endorse people not of the establishment, people who say, go out publicly and step up to a microphone and say, I will support the president's agenda if I get elected. It's a winning strategy, as I told you. That's what Mr. Strange did. And now it looks like he's got Trump's endorsement. That race will be between 2 or 3 Republicans, and they'll face off against a Democrat, which they'll probably likely win that. So they should hold on to that Sessions Senate seat in Alabama, and hopefully they'll replace whoever's there now or some establishment hack with someone who supports the legislative agenda of the president. Well, the Washington Times, the Reverend Hillary Rotten Clinton, the Clinton email case expands, far from over, as the FBI hands over more classified documents to the State Department. The State Department now stating that they have no idea when they will finish sorting through the previous hidden email messages. If you remember, a couple days ago, we talked about the fact that after the Benghazi hearings, or while that was all going on, there was supposed to be an internal audit of any wrongdoing. They were supposed to look at communications, but it appears that they forgot to look into the statedepartment.gov email communication system to look at emails by Hillary or any people on her staff. So now those have all been and are being collected up, sent over to be reviewed, I assume by the FBI or the State Department. The FBI is working with the State Department and the Department of Justice on this. And so the Reverend Hillary Rotten Clinton, her problems continue. They're not going away. The Russian narrative is collapsing. Seth Rich is soon going to be on the lips of even those in the mainstream media. And as they dig more into that, they'll find out that the individuals representing Mr. Awan, the people who've been trying to protect the family of Seth Rich or keep them from really trying to find the truth, are going to be exposed. People like Mr. Bauman and his friends are going to be exposed as part of the Hillary clan. It's all coming down on Hillary's head. Maybe that's why she suddenly refound or rediscovered or discovered religion. And finally, ex-UN ambassador Craig Murray, some of you people remember him. He got caught up in some scandal. The charges were leveled against him. The hearings were held. He won his case. He has been vindicated. Now, Mr. Murray is a known player and friend, very close friend of Julian Assange, knows him well, has visited him many times. He's considered to be an envoy to WikiLeaks, sort of a go-between between people and WikiLeaks. And he is now coming out and stating that the DNC leaks were originated from a disgruntled employee at the DNC. He knows this 100% for sure. He knows docs have been handed over, and he knows where and when. He knows the day. It was in a park in Washington, D.C. back in the early summer. He states that he himself even received a package following a meeting about this topic on an occasion. He knows 100% for sure that Seth Rich was the one who transferred those 144,000 emails and apparently something else or other things to WikiLeaks. So that mystery is no longer a mystery to those of us who can face the truth. There are many in the corporate media who are soon going to have to come to terms with this fact, because the Russian narrative is now collapsing, as I explained to you earlier. Once they finally have to admit that there is no Russia hack, instead it was a localized leak from someone inside, the next obvious question will be who. There's already a leading candidate. His name is Seth Rich. I stated in a couple videos ago that Seth Rich was the key to breaking this thing open, because it leads you everywhere. And we can now see that when we continue to do as we're all doing, that's why I told you a couple days ago, commenting on these videos, watching these videos or other videos, being engaged, keeping the conversation going on your Facebook pages and your social media. Do not underestimate the power of social media and of your voice, the power of your comments, of the channels you watch. Do not underestimate the power that you have. Evidence right here that because we have done the work, we've done the pushing, that the truth is finally emerging. We're weeks away from seeing the complete collapse of the narrative and the real questions about the real crimes, and the real questions about Seth Rich, surveillance, unmasking, obstruction. Soon, these will be the questions in the leading news stories of the day. And when the corporate media realizes that there's money in them there hills, the narrative will certainly change, and we might be well on our way to being vindicated. That's TowerGate. Thank you so much for tuning in this Monday evening. I'll be back tomorrow. You all take care. Bye.